Today is Saturday, July 13, 2024, and I am in parts unknown, having just dropped off that last mile delivery opportunity. But that's not the reason why I'm doing this segment of the Get Geezer. About 25-30 minutes earlier, I happened to check out a online article from Huffington Post, and it talked about, yes, it talked about Joe Biden, and yes, it talked about Joe Biden, who is having his issues right now, and there's a significant number of people who feel that Joe should just step aside, and I know that there are people who say more than that, but that's not the reason for this segment of the Get Geezer. The article talked about also baby boomers who feel that that's hitting close to home, because while Joe Biden, my age, is not a baby boomer, he's not far from it. He's actually from my parents' generation. It was called the silent generation. That would be those who are not a part of the greatest generation, but they're not the part of the greatest generation, but they're in between the baby boomers and the greatest generation, the silent generation. And for baby boomers, for whatever it's worth, Donald Trump is considered a baby boomer. He's on the older end of the baby boomers. I myself am on the young end of the baby boomers. And so we're all looking at, those of us who are part of the baby boomer generation are looking at entering into retirement years based on Social Security age, or are well into retirement years. And so it had me thinking about a lot of things. The article talked of how there are those who are feel as if work is very much a part of themselves. It's a part of their identity as a person. Work gives them a sense of self-worth. And nobody wants somebody to push them out, telling them that they're not ready, that they're no longer capable of doing what they've been doing. Not what they used to do, what they've been doing. And perhaps for decades. Now, I've not been broached with that type of a question or situation. I admit that I have accepted some of my limitations that have come about by age and by circumstance. For example, there was a time 35 years ago, actually more like about 35 years ago, I could run a sub 5-minute mile in street clothes. I could dunk with the greatest of ease. In fact, I was able to dunk until age 40. And then all of a sudden, I started feeling gravity, something grabbing my ankles when I would try to jump. And then I come to accept the fact that I can't dunk anymore. Another thing, before hip surgery, I was still able to clean and jerk 250 pounds over my head. That's not advisable now with hip replacement surgery. Doing stuff like that is not advisable. When I was in training as a track person in my younger years, I could squat over 400 pounds. In fact, in my mid-30s, I was still squatting over 350 pounds with regularity. I could lift 250 pounds over my head in my 40s with regularity. It's a hard thing to acknowledge that you are slowing down. It is a hard thing to acknowledge that there are certain things that just catch up with you. You know, they always say you can't beat Father Time. There's some truth to that. But when you're younger, you look at people and you're like, man, that's an old motherfucker right there. But the old folk used to say, keep living. And there's truth to that. Keep living. All of a sudden, you don't get up as briskly as you used to. When you get up from lying down or sitting down is a grunt and a groan. Then all of a sudden, then it graduates. It's a grunt and a groan and a god damn fuck. That accompanies it as well. Shit, you know. But that it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So I've talked for about 4 minutes into this segment of the Gig Geezer. And if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do a topic about how it's been kind of a slow month. It's been dog days of summer. I've hit my dog days of summer. And after completing this last mile gig delivery opportunity, I just topped $1,500 for this current work week. And I am probably hard pressed to do anything above $1,750 this week. It is a subpar Gig Geezer week. But I've been talking about getting old, being old, geezerdom, old goat time, old goatdom, and all that. Joe Biden age. And the reason why I'm talking about it, because yes, that article hit home with me because I'm there. I'm basically there. And I look at Joe Biden. My father, who's still alive, is 84 years old, and he's got his limit. He's got more than his share of issues now. Some of them have been brought on by his own stubbornness. Some of them have been brought on by old injuries, and some of them have been brought on by age. I've got my share of issues. I've already shared. I've got cobalt and titanium in my left hip. I've got a partial rotator cuff tear. But those who have met me in person, those who have done gig apps with me, those who have done gig app opportunities with me, I would venture to say that many of them would tell you they would not think that I am of baby boomer age, Social Security age, near Social Security age. I'm not saying I'm Social Security age, because next year I will be Social Security age or Social Security eligible. And that may be a testament of my having taken care of myself all these decades, and it may be a testament of maybe some good genes. I think about my uncle who died back in January. In fact, there's a picture of me and my uncle from 2019. My uncle, and you talk about a bad dude, man. My uncle was a retired Army colonel, champion weightlifter, Army Ranger, got a doctorate degree, scholarship athlete. That's a lot of stuff right there. But let me share with you what I mean by he was a bad dude. Okay, Army Ranger. You got to be a tough person to complete Army training school. He went through 3 tours of Vietnam. He started out as a boat private, ended up as a colonel. What I often talk about, because my uncle was the person who introduced me to the gym and weights. He bought me my first set of weights, some sand weights, Joe Weider's sand weights. Probably the total set weighed 100 pounds, including the barbell. But I often talk of this particular session. Went to what was used to be the Wheeler Street Y, which is across the street from Texas Southern. In fact, that's where my mother would take me for daycare when I was yay high, and where my uncle, the same uncle that I'm talking about, first exposed me to a swimming pool. And this particular day, he's fucking around in the weight room, steel weights, bench press. He's in his mid-40s at the time. He's fucking around, starting out warming up at about 225 pounds. So that's 445 steel weight barbells. Well, dudes half his age and younger, dudes half his age and younger than him, they fall off by the wayside. He's the last one still bench pressing, 450 pounds. Yeah, that was my uncle, okay? But over time, my uncle started to slow down. I noticed signs in his late 60s, and it was even more apparent when I last saw him when he was in his late 70s. By then, his body was racked. 70% of his body was racked by arthritis. He had knee replacement. He had overcome having a stroke, quintuple bypass surgery. Yeah. But he kept going. In fact, whenever I would talk to him, he says, "All right, nephew, keep in touch." I'm like, man, now you know how that goes. You know that you're the one who's going to get in contact with me, because I'll never get in contact with you because you're always on the run. Yeah, you're right. And as long as I can, I'm going to keep moving. And he did until the day he died. That's right. So, how does that apply with gig work and what I've been doing, ownership and operation of a Sprinter/cargo van? I know that I should be thinking about retirement. And there are days I do want to take off. But I'm also motivated by earning money. I'm also motivated by trying to stay active, keep going, because there is some truth. If you don't use what you have, you'll lose it. And that is a medical fact. You got to keep using what you got, or it will kind of fade away. But what I'm doing right now, at least to this point, I've not had to have that honest look in the mirror and say, can I continue to do this? I've been fortunate in that I've been able to do, for example, the last mile gig delivery opportunities. What I just dropped off was 22 33-pound packs of flooring. I've handled the mulch, what amounts to is pallets of mulch. I've handled sacks of cement. In fact, in one last mile gig delivery opportunity within the last few weeks, it was 20 80-pound bags of cement. Now you're gonna say, man, geezer, you gotta take care of yourself. I try to take care of myself. My queen is on me about getting my rest and all. And quite frankly, I've had a lot of days this year where, because I'm really, I'm out here, really brawling to earn what I can because of how things have slowed down and how the gig apps have cut the pay that was what some of us had gotten spoiled by just a year ago. And then there's also the driving with the brokered opportunities. All that stuff catches up with you. And yeah, admittedly, I'm of an age where you gotta take some time out to rest, or your body's gonna tell you, or your body's just gonna shut down, and you're just gonna go to sleep when you don't want to go to sleep. When I was younger, I remember staying up for a couple of days at a time, riding a bike everywhere, riding a bike 50 miles in a day, turn around, go bowl an 8-game marathon. You ain't gonna catch me doing that now. You're not gonna catch me doing all that stuff. But yeah, I know that there are those who have said, "Hey man, you stumble over what you're trying to say." Then there have been those who've been even more critical, saying that you can't even get a thought out, you can't even get a sentence out. My answer to you is that, first of all, I don't have a stuttering issue. I've never had a stuttering issue. I've never had speech impediments or anything of that sort. What I will tell you is that, and I posed this to someone, let me film you and you try to do what I'm doing. In other words, you're driving, you're thinking about 3 or 4 other things at the same time, and then you're also trying to communicate to a camera, and then you're also trying to be grammatically correct in what you say. I promise you, you will stumble and not sometimes get the words out that you want to say. I promise you. So I have some type of respect for electronic media people that I didn't have when I was in school. Back then, you made the choice of either being print or electronic. I thought the electronic side folk were just a bunch of talking heads, talking clueless heads, who ask the dumbest of questions and act the airiest among society. And while media has evolved to where basically it's electronic media and social media. Social media encompasses some of the things that I went to school for. Social media encompasses the ability to write, in which you read internet articles, but it also encompasses the ability to write and to create a script. One other thing, I do have notes there's notes that I scribble on. There are notes that I use sometimes when I do things, and then a lot of times I just try to talk from the heart. I try to talk about things that are near and dear to me at that moment, and so that's a part of trying to be authentic. In fact, here's another notebook that I've used where I scribble down. This is another notebook that I've used to scribble down thoughts or facts and all that when I've shared when I shared topics on the Gig Geezer. But yeah, it's not easy getting old. Truth be said, you don't even know that you're getting old until you stop and realize that you're getting old. I mean, quite frankly, 10 years ago, I didn't have this graying here. I did not have this graying. I did not have this graying. In fact, I show more graying now than I have at any stage in my life. But some would say what you're showing is what people 15, 20 years your age are showing. Maybe good genes, maybe that I've tried to live a stress-free life. Who knows? But yeah, it kind of bothers me that I'm showing more gray, but at the same time, I'm at a stage of life where I'm really not, proportionally speaking, I'm still not showing as much gray. I've been talking all this time now, and how does all this relate to gig work? The thing is that when you're doing last mile gig delivery work, it requires some physical effort. I've shared this before. There have been others who have shared this before. Just because you have a SUV or a pickup truck or a Sprinter/cargo van, for you to earn, unless you're doing brokered opportunities, unless you're doing certain last mile gig delivery opportunities in which it's no touch, in that it is placed onto your van, it's something that's palletized, that's placed onto your vehicle by forklift and then taken off, there's a good chance you're going to be doing some of that physical work. Okay, and an example of that is what I did a few weeks ago. Again, I'm mentioning it, where I had those 21 80-pound bags of cement, concrete, to drop off. That's right, 21 of those. There was nobody there to help me. I had to get them off. Okay, and I know that if I don't handle them correctly, I can hurt my back. I can do more. I can possibly cause problems with my hips, or I can cause problems with my shoulders. So yes, I have to be mindful of those things, even at my stage of life, even if I were younger. But when you're younger, you don't think about those things. You've got a bright red S on your chest. So if there's anything that I would say to y'all, because I know that my demographics on the Gig Geezer channel are pretty much those from age 35 to 54. From 35 to 54, pretty much my main demographics. For those of you, you need to take care of yourself. You need to not take certain things for granted. Your body may disappoint you and fail on you. I felt that way back in 2018 with my hip, or actually 2017, when I came to the realization that my hip was bothering me so much that I could not take a step, and I need to find out what was going on. And I felt at that time my body had betrayed me once again. And it's not that I'm making any excuse for it, but when it comes to arthritis, there's not much you can do for arthritis, man. You know, arthritis arthritis will fuck with you at any stage in life, at any age in life. And that's, I know I'm sounding like Joe Biden now, and that's a fact. That's true. I'm not lying. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. That's a fact. That's the truth. But hopefully you got something out of this segment of the Gig Geezer. It's not one that I'm talking about all the money earned and all that shit. This is about something that you may have with someone in your life. It may be your uncle. It may be your father. It may be your grandfather. It may be a mentor of yours, a true mentor of yours in life. And it could be your mother or your aunt or your grandmother or a true lady mentor in your life. I know that my daughter often reminds me of things. In fact, my daughter is always telling me that, hey, you can't do this forever. And she's right. And I think about that. I think about the realization that, hey, on some of the on one of the apps, you're going to have to show medically that you can still do this stuff. On one of the apps, you're going to have to. Once you reach age 70, you will have to show medically speaking that you're able to still do this. At least you're medically cleared to do that. The other apps don't do that, but this one particular app does. What about brokered opportunities? They don't say anything about that with brokered opportunities, but on that one gig app, they do. So, you know, what you have to do, so what ends up happening, you got to be honest with yourself. Can you keep on doing this stuff? And what I'm working to do is put myself in a position where I don't have to come out here as I do now. Where I can truly say that, hey, I'm out here because I want to be out here, not because I have to. And I can truly pick and choose what I want to do. I do that, but I can truly pick and choose the days and opportunities that I really want to come out here and not be so much motivated by the money that I feel that I need to make and have to make at this juncture. And so with that, this is yet another segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.